Iko Nini. Yes, it's me, the paid actor, Mwafreeka. Nakuwa nashindwa kwa nini najita the paid actor. Kuna vile Khalif Kairo alikufanya interview yake na Otwe every other time with Eric. Make sure umecheck out your episode. And in the process, jinangu ikakame up because of the interview that I done with Clement. So of course ilikuwa ina make sense that my name would come up, and Khalif akaenda pamesema that I'm a paid actor and nililipwa just to do that interview. And it's interesting that angesema hivyo cause nimekuwaga super honest ikikam to hizi story zangu na how the interview ended up happening, where the interview happened and I didn't want to do the interview. Najua it's one of those things where life inakuwaga funny sana that nilikuwa 50-50, like why should I do this interview? I've talked about this guy enough. This Clement guy, I don't even know who he is. But let me do it. And then I did the interview. It ended up going viral, and unajua the rest is history. But wacha tusikie vile alibonga jangu Mr. Khalif Kairo.
Because I felt like with Mwafreeka's show, Mwafreeka was a paid actor. Yeah, alikuwa ameambiwa ni aje uliza hizi swali.
No, but I don't think Mwafreeka was
no, I feel no, I felt the reason is because
let me push back.
Yeah.
I know Mwafreeka personally. I actually did IKONINI yesterday. I would not imagine that Mwafreeka was paid. Maybe you can accuse him of not being objective enough.
Yeah,
but not paid.
No. The problem stems from you remember the first time when I got arrested in January. Mwafreeka did an episode. You know me, one thing about me is I don't watch anything negative. I really try to protect my mental space. So but I do understand that there are a couple of very bad things he said. And I was like, okay, it's his opinion. I respect that. I would have never gone...
Wase wengi wameni watch. Have you ever heard me say very bad things about Khalif Kairo? Apart from the fact that alilipwa, alafu hakudeliver gari, alafu I don't believe in enemies and what is it called? Enemies and the devil, and your enemies ganging up together. I don't believe in that. I live in a world where I believe I have control over a bunch of things, and then there are a lot of things that are outside my control. But if I end up in debt, I would not blame my enemies. Itakuwa two personal decisions, and I've had some very many personal decisions that I've regretted. Baadaye musemaga invested in the taxi business. I had nothing to do with that. Ended up losing a Toyota East yangu fulani ilienda up imeenda, I think it's Uganda, because nilikuwa nafanya kahaya. Alafu pia kuna vile nilinunua Noah msako ameniambia jo buda jo touring jo utapata biz, ilikajia mawe for so long. Ended up selling it, bought it for like 980,000. Ilikuwa ni kitambo, of course size it's much more expensive than that. Ended up selling it for like 660,000 in less than a year. So I've made some bad decisions, and mu take responsibility for my decisions. I think beef yangu ama the only problem we have na Khalif Kairo's way of doing things is the fact that he never takes responsibility. It's always someone else's fault. And if it's not someone else, then it's the devil. If it's not the devil, then God is testing him and preparing him for something great. Nachiki. So my problem is, as an unbeliever, I look out for the customer, because the customer, as God tests you and prepares you for better things, what's God doing to the customer ule wako? But wacha tusikize part kidogo juu yangu alafu tutoke hapo.
I would have never gone out of my way to address any opinion that Mwafreeka said. I'm like, okay, sure, talk. But when he interviews Clement, I'm like, now I start seeing a connection. I'm like, maybe it's not random. Why didn't Clement? Because let me give you a very good example. When I tried to speak about this issue in 2022, because we're talking about matters that happened over 2 years ago. We need to be objective and ask ourselves, why are these issues being addressed now? Why not 2023? Why not last year November? Why not last year December? There's a reason to it. Because it was part of a very well-crafted narrative. And this is something I keep saying in all interviews. There's a well-crafted narrative to paint me in bad luck, to malign my reputation, and to basically make me move out of the industry.
So I want to hear your part, like how kwa nini Clement alido your interview na mimi, and hapa nita take credit. If you come to my style of interviewing, you have two sorts of people. There is no middle ground. There are people who love my style of interviewing. There are people who hate it. cheki. So Clement seems to be like the type who love my type of interviewing, so he's the one who reached out. And apart from him, naweza sema another example of someone who even came on the show and even told you people that he reached out to me ilikuwa ni nitwa nani, Daddy Owen. And Daddy Owen, your time, I think he needed his therapy session just to talk about marriage and broken marriages. And yeah, so we ended up having that discussion, and he himself, hiyo interview kienda kuisha, naambia Gasi, by the way, mi ndo nipigia Mwaf nikamwambia nataka kuja. The same way ili happen na history ya Clement. Like Clement reached out akasema that he's never given his side of the story and he felt like it was time. And the first time that I heard that, I was like, so Clement ni nani? Because I didn't know him. Like, mi sikuwa najua tu Khalif alinyang'anya kwa kampuni na wase wawili, but I never knew their names. So eventually I had to ask him, like, Buddha, nirushie anything that can show me that there's a connection between you and Khalif. And then akanirushia. And nikaona hiyo kampuni walikuwa wameanzisha, wanachikizo vitu. And then I was like, I think there's a guest who was supposed to come. Alafu guest hakuja, alikuwa nafaa kuja Tuesday akacancel. So on Monday ndio nikauliza Clement, unaweza kuja Tuesday? Clement akasema Tuesday naenda kotini, but nakuja Wednesday. And then akakuja Wednesday and we had the session. Me, I expected it to be like a 1 hour thing, ended up being 3.5 hours. It could have continued even for 6 hours. It's just that I don't know what was happening that made me want to cut short the interview. In hindsight. So back to Khalif Kairo. So before niendele na history, wacha nikuremind this full interview iko kwa Eotwe every other time with Eric. It's episode 36 and I need you to go watch that. Eric waga mtu wangu wa nguvu sana, and see, like, the funny thing about interview is there is nothing positive that Khalif Kairo said about Clement. Everything to him was negative. This guy is a narcissist. This guy is a liar. This guy wants to be feared. This guy wants to... So I was like, damn, there's nothing this guy has ever done that's good.
Wow. Umeimba Pro Max bro.
What's the shit mazee? Hadi nazalia.
Lia. Hey. Love, he has gotten a new device.
Hey.
I'm enjoying the club.
Hey, congratulations. Anakutana anafanya kazi nzuri.
Wow.
Bana, Clement utaniua.
That's what she said. Mwafu utaniua. Okay, sawa. So ukisikiza interview say there's nothing positive that he said about Clement. Everything was negative. And one thing I have to give credit to Clement is when he was here, kuna at least a few positive things that he said about this guy. But now, apart from kubonga negative generally, alienda mpaka to a level of kudus a psychoanalysis ya Clement, and it was very interesting to hear. So he talked about Clement's childhood and what Clement went through in school. Vile nimesema, if you want to go watch this interview, go and watch the whole interview. Iko kwa Eotwe every other time with Eric. So wacha check just a small part aki psychoanalyze Clement. This was very interesting to see.
And this is now because he went to an interview and spoke about, everything. I'm also going to be very open. When Clement was a small boy, he schooled in a place called Kitale. So he grew up in Kitale. His father used to work for the government, and at one point, I think vitu zao nikazi in the south. So he grew up in a setup where, every time when your story goes from you're doing very well to things imechange kidogo. Of course, kuna kuangana kale. One moment you live in a very good life, then the other moment kidogo, the self-esteem can be affected. So that's one thing. So the other thing about him is the fact that kulikuwa pia na issue ya bullying as a child.
Damn. Umsaliboga paka juu ya vile Clemo alikuwa bullied as a child. Mpaka niko like, damn man, I should have known this information. Because one thing about me is mutaka kulearn as much about the guest as possible. So this would have been interesting information to see that this guy went through bullying and went through this and went through that. So this whole thing, like say alibonga juu ya Clemo getting bullied and how that affected him as a person, and that's the reason why everywhere he goes he wants to show that I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss. And let's just hear a little part of this, alafu tutabonga juu ya other issues that he talked about that some of you reacted. Like there's a doctor based in America alintumiaga like an email and she was telling me about lawsuits and how malpractice lawsuits work. But wacha tuendelee na psychoanalysis ya Clemo that is.
And one person who actually knows Clement from those days is Joho's, I don't know if he's Joho's PA or something. There's a guy called Chris the Bass. You know Chris the Bass?
I'm not familiar.
I see him hang out with Joho a lot. He's a big media personality. He works for KTN PR.
We'll put him on the screen for the audience to see.
Yeah. I know this because there's a conversation we had with Clement one. He was like, I know this guy. And then there's something he said, I won't go into the details, but just the take home is that he's a person who, based on his childhood experience and based on the things he's personally gone through, he has that strong will to try to prove himself, number one, and is that strong will to like, you know, I'm the guy. I need to be recognized.
For you to know this,
Yeah.
you know, they say there's a thin line between love and hate.
Yeah.
So for the rest of the interview end up umewatch yote, but unacheki, so Ali spent a bit of that psychoanalyze, and remember he's not a doctor, so this is all zile skupendi, so I can do my psychoanalysis and claim you're this that this whatever. But from this interview, like another thing that I noticed is, and this is the problem I've always had Khalif way of looking at life, is he'll never take responsibility. It's always someone else's fault, and you can't go through life that way. You can't go through life paka ile like unaanza, I'm not on the same mental level with you, I'm not on the... I understand there are a lot of dumb people out here, but to claim that someone who funded you used to gift you with iPhones and what, like sana sao, like, do you know after he interview it okay, the interview ya Clemo, I was getting calls from all sorts of people waloko na namba yangu wako like, Mwaf jo tuambie ukweli jo, watu wawili si watu wawili si watu wa majirani hao, wawili si mahoma wanakanikali kwa nadinyana alimpatiaje iPhone Pro Max. That's how much people could not believe that one man can gift another man an iPhone Pro Max roho safi. So you have to understand that ilikuwa inaonyesha vile. So for me kusikiza sasa Khalif after hii story yote and just listening to him and saying the way this is such an evil guy and there's nothing good that he's never done, I was there like damn. But one of the things pia ali-address ni ile story ya lawsuit ya madhake, and the fact that Asamo knew about that, of course pia vile nilikuambia si research sana juu ya vitu, so we knew about that. And one Iko Nini fan actually wrote an email to explain to me how these lawsuits work. So I think I'm going to censor jina yake, but yes, so huyu doctor wacha nipatiane tu jina yake moja, so ni Dr. Hadir, wacha ni censor the rest. Aliandika, hello Iko Nini, my cousin recently listened to your podcast episode with Clement, and there was a segment where he mentioned a malpractice lawsuit involving Kairo's mom. I wanted to clarify a few things as I work in a hospital in New Jersey and have seen several of these cases. While I won't go into specifics regarding any particular case, here are some key points to consider about malpractice lawsuits. Typical malpractice lawsuits timeline: earlier settlement 1 to 2 years, extended negotiations 2 to 3 years, trial if no settlement 3 to 5 years. Key insights: settlement rate around 80 to 90% of medical malpractice cases settle before trial. Lower settlement, many cases settle for far less than potential jury awards, often 250,000 even when damages could be higher. Why many settle for less? Hospitals and insurance prefer settlements. Trials are costly and risky. Plaintiffs accept lower offers to avoid lengthy legal battles and uncertain jury decisions. Non-economic caps. many states limit pain and suffering damages, reducing potential payouts. Kumbuka, the target was $10 million, yes? Attorney fees. Lawyers take 30 to 40% contingency fees, further lowering take-home amounts. Sikia hiyo, 30 to 40%. Damn. Hiyo sikuwa najua. Cases outcome and typical payouts. Only 5 to 10% of the cases go to trial, and hospitals win 70 to 80% of the time. Damn. Most settlements are confidential, but reports suggest that many cases settle under $500,000. Alafu, severe cases, wrongful death, paralysis, brain damage can reach millions, but still often below jury awards. Then akaendelea, ayani akamalizia, akasema, if Cairo's family settles for the average, which is $250,000, the effective federal tax rate would be around 32%. Since they appear in Seattle, Washington state, there is no state income tax, meaning they would owe federal taxes at that rate, plus any lawyer fees involved at 30 to 40%. Hospitals know that and will drag this a long time. I have yet to see anyone win more than $500K, and that has no death involved in it. Let me know if you need any further insight. So this is what the doctor wrote to me. So let's do some quick calculations. So on average, 250,000. 250,000, let's say the lawyers take 40%. So 40%, hiyo ina come to 40% of 250, that's 100,000, yes. So 100,000 imeenda, tunabaki na 150. 150, federal taxes 32%. 32%, that comes to around, that's 48K, yeah? Yes, 48K. So wanabaki na 102. 102%, yani 102,000. 102,000 sasa ndio imebaki, ndido lazima ingefeed madhake, alafu hata kama madha anamwachia kakitu angemwachia from his story. So damn, hizi ma cases, they are not as simple as that. But of course I don't like talking about this case, because of course you wish someone the best, but the fact that maybe the billionaire status was pegged on a malpractice lawsuit, that was not a good thing to learn about. But now Khalif Kairo, man, I wish him all the best. That's the one thing that I can say. But one of the things nizataka alani life is taking responsibility, number one, and apart from that, giving credit to people who've helped you go from one step to another. Wase wengi wamesikiza Iko Nini for a very long time, washasikiaga nikibonga juu a lot of people who employed me, fired me, and unajua from Royal Media, ushasikiako, umesikiza Iko Nini long enough, you know the name of my employer and how I was fired. Ghetto Radio, you know, employer, how I was fired. Nation Media Group, I think that's the only place ile stajagi, but napatianaga story ya mdosi watrai ku mess with my co-host and such things. And I always, and one thing that happens is I always give credit for people who've helped me in one way or another, from the people that I worked with on radio to the people that have come kwa hii space ya inaitwa nini, like hii space yetu ya content creation. Utasikia nikisema the person who made Iko Nini as a guest was Octopizo, nacheki. When I'm saying this, I know one day Octon is a jam na mimi alafu ni this akitumia that as information. That can happen. Who else will I talk about? I also talk about like the way mse kama Andrew Kibe alifanyaga nika understand the power of just working full time and doing this show full time instead of doing it kidogo kidogo. So atapatia credit yake, and giving credit, it takes away nothing from you. Neza sema niko na watch interview ya Calligraph kwa mic check. Of course tushai have Kali hapa before, so I wanted to see like maybe what else they explored that si hatukuwa tume-explore. And one of the things, jinangu ili come up na in the process ni chikikali alinipatia flowers zangu. When you give people the flowers, it takes nothing away from you. It takes nothing away from you. So for me to see Khalif Kairo not give Clement even a little, unajua, a pollen ya flower, is that goes to show his character more than it goes to show anything. But yes, the full interview iko kwa Eotwe every other time with Eric. Mi alinita a paid actor, But one thing that I take pride in is I've been called paid by so many people. So Khalif is not the first person. And one thing I've come to realize about Kenya is when people can't argue their points, they only say you've been paid. So inakuaga like umse amelipwa, kuna vile anaweza sema hivyo na hajalipwa. Because hata ukiangalia stories za Khalif, one of the reasons why he'd feel nimelipwa ni go search jina yake kwa internet and you'll see very few people talked about him because he was, unajua Kenya when you're successful, we have that thing where no one wants to talk about you. I'm the only podcaster and I'm the only, I think Iko Nini is the only platform that was calling him out. Every other person was there like najua ni kama wanamwachia hiyo nini, but mi ndio nilikuwa msemo moja, nilikuwa zile za budajo, umelipua gari imelipiwa full, it doesn't matter, you just deliver the car. If gari hajalipiwa full, then we can come and argue and try and think you 1, 2, 3 things about. So in the process for him, the fact that I was the only one talking, I must have been paid, because hakuna vile just on a random day utakam tu useme kitu. And this is something I suffer and I've suffered from for a very long time. Kumbuka tukigo back in the days, the first time IKONINI kiwa around 76,000 subscribers, at the time we were being cancelled because tumebonga juu ya Andrew Kibe, tukisema I was the first guy I think kuwa on record nikisema even this guy can make mistakes, and then I called out ile mistake yake ya YouTube. Mwaf kwenda huko, you've been paid. Sawa, hiyo ika happen. That wave went. I think the next wave was ile time Morara aliendaga Citizen TV, alafu akiwa Citizen akasema that the president had called him, and then mi nikadu video nikasema Iko Nini, nikasema there's no way a sitting president is going to call someone random, alafu uzijo alimpigia simu tumekucancel, umelipwa, you support the government, then nikakuwa cancelled your time. And what else has happened? I think nilikuwa cancelled tena, nimekuwa cancelled so many times. Alafu this past weekend nilikuwa cancelled ile time nilisema we don't live in a dictatorship, and I'll still say that this is not a dictatorship. Do we have a bad president? Yes. Is Kenya a dictatorship? No. Is there extrajudicial killings in this country? Yes. Is there bad governance? Yes. Is there thievery, conmanship? Yes. Is it a dictatorship? No. Why? Because we can sit down here and talk shit. In a dictatorship, you can't do that. So, with that in mind, if you are independent-minded, people will always think you've been paid. Because kila mtu anataka kusikia. So when you tell people like, you know what, things don't work that way. Alafu pia another thing that I've learned with nimekam ku notice by doing IKONINI, nimekam ku notice that a lot of Kenyans don't worship God. A lot of Kenyans hujitaga Christians, but they are actually not Christians. They worship other humans. A lot of my times I've been attacked based on criticizing another human or not thinking another human is special. Acheki. So nilikuwa attacked vile nimesema time ya Andrew Kibe, and I said this dude messed up, and time proved me wrong. Proved me right. Nimekuwa attacked juu ya kusema science za America doesn't make sense. You can't say that short women are bad, they are short tempered. Kwenda huko, height has nothing to do with temper. Obviously jela ingekuwa imejaa watu wafupi. Then what else? Then ile time ya Morara, kumbuka kuna wengine wenyu. Saizi ni time ya Ruto. Time ya Ruto before the elections. When I used to criticize Ruto before the elections, I was attacked for that. And then after the elections, ile time nimemcriticize and nimempatia credit, because I always do that. If you do something good, bad people also do good things. Hiyo I think ni Obama. Obama is the one who said that. And good people do bad things. Still, hapo na quote Obama. So I'll always try to be objective and tell people this can happen, this can happen. This is what I think about this. And what I'm doing is I'm telling you my thoughts. I'm not advising you. I'm not a life coach. Kama unasikizaga Iko Nini, you know how much I hate life coaches. I always say no one has life figured out. No one has life figured out. Not Amerix. Kaushai nisikiaga nikipatia na hiyo quote. Specifically mubongaga juu Amerix na Andrew Kibe. When I tell you those two motherfuckers don't have life figured out. They're just like you. They're doing guesswork. We are all doing guesswork. No one has life figured out. So I'm not here to advise you. You do whatever you want to do. Mi ukuambiaga juu yangu and my experiences and my thoughts. That's why kila mtu akikuambia kunyonga ni mbaya, mimi nakwambia nimekuwa nikinyonga hii miaka yote na kuna kitu imenifanyikea. Unacheki. So if you are feeling guilty, unaweza enda au kumeko feel guilty ukiwa kama mimi, it doesn't change anything. Like you just go about your day. You have nini. So I've always been an independent thinker. I'll never follow the crowd. And because of that, wase kama kina Khalif Kairo, the only thing they can think about Mwaf is he was paid. But sasa Khalif Kairo, nakukupatia a challenge. Namba yangu ya M-Pesa inajulikana. Just kuja hata hapa kwa show to print out our records za pesa. Alafu one if I've ever received anything from Clement or any associate of Clement. That would be interesting to see. The same thing na hizi story na kuwaga accused za kulipwa na gava. I don't want M-Pesa iangaliwe mwone kama kumekuwa na kitu yoyote ya Samoei Ruto or any associate. Every thought unasikiaga juu yangu inakuwaga independent 100% Mwafreeka. Not influenced by anyone. I do not need a masculinity coach. I do not need a life coach. Why? Because I've come to realize that no one has life figured out. Everyone is just doing guesswork. Some people's guesswork works better than others. And yes, people are professionals in different fields. Kuna engineering, mathematics, nini. But there's no professional in life. Because life comes at you. 1 minute you go sour, the next minute you're sick. The next minute you've lost a family member. The next minute, so no one has life figured out. So with that in mind, the fact that sometimes I go against the most popular people, you time unapata mwafuko na umama. So you are raised by your mother. I'll never be another thing pia watu wanajuaga juu yangu, man. I love that feminine energy and I love it around me. Like when nikiwa a young man, I spent most of my weekends with women than men. Chikile time nyinyi mnaspendigi ma weekend zenyu na dudes, mimi kwa naspendigi na madem. And damn, had some nice times those days. Damn, maisha ya huni ni tamu. Okay, back to Khalif Kairo. Khalif, nimekupatia challenge, man. You've said I'm a paid actor, so let's put it to the test. Kuja tuweke ma M-Pesa zetu hapa. Alafu pia ulisema Clement hakukulipa. So pia kuja na bank records zako tuangalie from back in the days if there's any consistent payment ya 200,000 shillings. Alafu tuone nini. Kama haiko, I'll be the first guy to apologize niseme that Clement guy was full of shit. Sindio? Ama kama kasi wata M-Pesa records, there has to be. Najua uzuri wa money is there's always a digital footprint. Anyway, eotwe episode 36 with Khalif Kairo na Eric out now. IKONINI.